A panel of U.S. experts on Africa met in Washington to discuss the state of security on the continent, outlining hotspots and terrorist threats. Panelists discussed insecurity in Somalia and Libya, violent extremism in the Sahel-Maghreb region, political instability in Kenya, as well as threats posed by Boko Haram insurgents in Nigeria. Amanda Dory is former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Defense.
If you look across the Sahelian band, you have half a dozen countries there that are experiencing challenges, the countries of the Lake Chad Basin, and then the Horn of Africa, as you've mentioned. And not to leave out North Africa, which in some geographies is included bureaucratically and some isn't. But Libya remains a concern, clearly. Islamic State and Al-Qaeda have been able to inflame a series of grievances in these different countries, and you see a competition now between those groups playing out.
J. Peter Pham is the director, Africa Center, Atlantic Council. He authored a book titled Somalia, the Most Failed State.
Large parts of Somalia have actually achieved, in the 2 decades of state failure since the collapse of the last truly national government, achieved a great deal of stability by turning in on themselves, building up local legitimacy, building up local security. So we need to figure out a way to balance the two, the territorial integrity and sovereignty of states, at the same time working with effective actors.
Former U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs Jendai Fraser spoke about the impact of Boko Haram's insurgency in Nigeria.
If you look at the impact of Boko Haram in northeast Nigeria, what it's actually doing is forcing a rapid rate of urbanization, even more rapid than you see in Lagos City, which is one of the 3 biggest cities in Africa.
Retired U.S. General Carter Ham said Libya's security situation remains highly problematic.
We have to define what are our security objectives in Libya, and I think they should begin with maintaining the territorial integrity of the state and denying safe haven for violent extremist organizations inside Libya.
The panelists also discussed Kenya's protracted election process, with some wondering if the East African country would remain stable following the annulment of the August 8 presidential elections.
It's the question of institution development, as far as I'm concerned, and it's also the question of the political maturity of a polity that can then have sustainable security and stability. The Supreme Court is an independent court based on the 2010 new Constitution. So it's working, and we just have to tolerate a little bit of more uncertainty, and the market has to tolerate a bit more uncertainty. But the institutions are actually operating the way they want to, despite, I have to say, some irresponsible statements by the political candidates themselves.
General Ham also outlined AFRICOM's role for a secure Africa.
I think the underlying purpose of the command is to partner with, enable, and develop African security forces so that they are increasingly capable of providing for their own security, contributing to regional security.
There is no doubt a stable and secure Africa augurs well for individual countries, creating jobs, opportunities, and security for future generations.